just out the corner of her eye. I run away a lot. Sometimes I just can't help it. I think I'm doing all right, and then suddenly I feel this overwhelming urge to be someplace else. It's a kind of panic, I guess. Something in my head. Things get too close. I get scared. I run. It feels as if something is closing in on me. As if something's been watching me, listening to me, waiting for a chance. And I can sense it just before it's about to get me. And I run. I don't want to run. I can't help it. I understand that this is an illusion. It's probably an illusion. There's probably nothing after me. But when your life's at stake, how sure can you afford to be? Besides, that's a lie. I know there's something. It's because of the patterns. I see patterns, I've always seen them. But lately, more and more. In carpets, in nature, in my life. Evidence of design. And not just of design, of a kind of malignant watchfulness on the part of somebody or something. Signs. There are signs everywhere if you just look. Most people don't want to look. They don't want to know. But I can't help it. The world is a forest of symbols, and I can see them. It's like everything's written in some sort of code, but I don't have the code book. Or maybe like I had it once and lost it. I suppose this is how superstitions and religions start. Somebody thinks they see a pattern. It could be an illusion, or it could mean something. You can't be sure. And there's a part of you that actually wants to believe there's a pattern, even if you don't know what it is. But you want to know what it is. Or let's say there's no pattern. Let's say everything is random. If everything is actually random, then all the patterns we think we see might as well be illusions. But that can't be. Because the patterns are there, and some of them clearly mean something. It's not just like the constellations where you look at a group of stars and decide it's a bear or a spoon or something. Even though you could draw different lines through the stars and see an entirely different pattern. And in fact, the stars that look like they have some relationship to each other are actually impossibly vast distances away from each other. They only look like they're close together because of the accident of where we're looking at them from. If we were looking at them from a different place, there would be totally different patterns. But some patterns are not the result of an arbitrary figure ground configuration. Some patterns have significance. Blood splatter, for instance. If you look at blood splatter, you can use the patterns to reconstruct events in the past. You look at the splatter of blood and you can tell that somebody did something terrible to somebody in a certain way with a certain weapon from a certain angle. So understanding patterns can be a kind of time travel evidence that the whole idea of the past is not some sort of illusion. So where did the patterns come from? Well, suppose God's constructed the universe as a kind of puzzle for us to solve. And he's left these clues, but he's made it so difficult that it's almost impossible to solve the puzzle. But not quite. And some of us can see the clues better than others, so God sends out these spies to make sure we don't. Imagine that God's spies are certain dark personages. Maybe he uses demons for this sort of work, I don't know. And these creatures watch and listen, and they pay special attention to those of us who have a special gift for recognizing those patterns in the fabric of things. They watch us, and if we get close enough to the truth, they come to get us. And I also think, at least I strongly suspect, that they don't just listen. I think they meddle. I think they like to play with us. If they can see that we love something too much, they make sure it gets taken away from us. Or they make sure people can't get together so there's no comfort. It's like that old novel where a man shoves a note under a door and it goes under a rug so that a girl doesn't see it, so she never knows he loves her. And he thinks she doesn't want him, so their lives are different from what they might have been, and they're both unhappy forever. And this is just the sort of thing that's happened to me over and over again in my life. Just when I'm about to find some sort of love, some sort of happiness, achieve some sort of peace. Just when I'm about to convince myself that nobody is wanting me. That nobody is listening to me. That these patterns I keep seeing are just random manifestations of my human weakness for seeing connections. Then something happens. Something always happens. And I catch a glimpse of them lurking just behind the curtains, just out the window, just on the other side of the door, just out the corner of my eye. And I have to run away. Don't tell me that's just random events or that's just bad luck. That's a pattern. I know a pattern when I see one. What I suspect is, and you can call this bad science or whatever, I don't care. What I suspect is that we all carry around these force fields, and when we touch these force fields or whatever they are, interpenetrate. And when they interpenetrate, all this energy interacts very powerfully, as in love. And there's a kind of storm in the head. Love is like a big electrical storm in your head. There's lightning, and the lightning makes a pattern, but lightning can also kill you. So it's very dangerous for a person who has more energy than most, who has a slightly higher body temperature than most. Something can't let this happen. Something can't let us just be happy. Happiness is not part of the pattern. And every time I reach out for it, I start to hear them whispering in the static on my phone calls. I see the evidence of their presence everywhere. A chair that seems to have been left in the wrong place when I wake up in the morning. I know the signs, I can see the patterns, and when I do, I have to run away before they get me. So I'm leaving. Don't try to follow me. I'm going someplace to hide where they can't get me. All you can do to save yourself is keep in constant motion. But more and more I'm beginning to be afraid there's nowhere left to hide. They always find you. They can smell the desperation on you. They're drawn to love like flies to some poor dead thing in the street. And if you're honest with yourself, you know it's true. You know they're listening. You know they're watching. I'm going now. I'd like to stay and love you, but I can't. They're watching me. For all I know, you could be one of them. But if you're not, if you look just quick enough, you can catch a glimpse of them just out the corner of your eye.